Hey guys, it's David from Horror Night Updaters here, joined with Brian, our newest member.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
So today we're going to be speculating, finally getting around to speculating about from HHN 2018 for both Hollywood and Orlando. So let's get into the thick of it. So we'll kind of talk about one event to make it easier, and then we'll go into another event. In this case, we'll let Brian have the honors and start talking about what he thinks might be at the Orlando event for 2028 this year. So, Brian, what do you think might be there this year?
Well, as I said in my video, they posted last week. I think some of the things, like right off the bat, that we're going to see, in my opinion, is something like American Horror Stories. Kind of things that have been at the event in previous years that more than likely, it makes sense to come back, whether it be like with a partnership or a movie deal that's kind of coming in. So definitely something like American Horror Stories for one. I could see them doing the newest season Hive here in Orlando. Um, so I could definitely see something like that. And then something else I think that is a guarantee kind of thing is Halloween with Michael Myers. Definitely,
Yeah,
so something, especially given last year that in Hollywood they didn't have Michael Myers, even though they had the whole Titans of Terror there. He was like noticeably absent from the lineup.
it was depressing.
So that would be an easy way to get him back into both events on both coasts.
Yeah.
For this year.
No, I agree. I think with Halloween, and especially with the new film coming out this year, I think possibly they might have been saving it to kind of promote the new film, especially since
Right.
Universal has a big close connection with Blumhouse. And I think that might be to do with, well, if we do it this year, we can really cross promote it with the.
Oh yeah.
But I think I agree. I think Halloween might have a strong chance to be at the event, and I know there's some people that are really sick of Michael, and I kind of see that. But I think with new kind of coat of paint and a new film coming out, it might
Oh
be
right. Yeah.
to just go through that specific maze.
Oh, definitely. I think, especially, ironically enough, I think it was this morning. I was looking at some more. I was watching a video about like the kind of production update for the movie, and
Yeah.
funny enough, I didn't. I guess I just didn't put two and two together. But it's actually being released through Universal, like Universal Pictures. So I mean, to me, that just puts another another kind of example in there of another reason to bring it to the event, because if they're releasing the film, then I mean you'd want everybody to know to come that there's a movie coming out in October. And the best way to do it is something like Halloween Horror Nights, because it's been successful in previous years.
I agree. I think with especially with Halloween, it's one of those mazes where I think both events might get it. I think if anything, Universal Hollywood might do. John and the team might do another Titans of Terror maze, but they'll just probably base it with all four icons, and then Orlando will probably get a standalone Halloween maze. Because
Yeah.
retrospect, I mean, we've had Halloween more times than I think Orlando has because we had it back in I think 2009 and we had it uh, 2015, 2016, I think. Yeah, 2016. And we didn't have it last year, but I think with Orlando, they've only had it maybe possibly a couple of times. And that
I,
was
I know at least twice. I know we had it, for the first two films. I couldn't really tell you about, those quote unquote unofficial mazes, where they're like, oh, there's a masked character in the maze, but they're not really saying who it is. I can't speak for any of that. But as far as like Michael Myers at Orlando, I know it at least twice.
Yeah, I can't recall Mike being at the event as many times as Hollywood. And that kind of goes along with a future IP that we'll probably get around to talking to, and that's the thing. I mean, Orlando's had that more times than what we've had. I think
Right.
we've only had it. Yeah, we've only had it once, and that was in 2011. But with Halloween,
Yeah, and we had it twice over here, 2007 and then 2011.
yeah, 2007 was a pseudo sequel to to the original 1982 thing film. With Halloween, we're getting a brand new film that continues the story from the original. So I'm interested to see, as a maze, what they do differently, and hopefully it's going to be both exciting and scary as well. I remember, was it 2016's Hell Comes to Haddonfield was a really good maze. It got quite a few jumps out of me, and I'd love to see that if Halloween does come back this year.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I remember last year's or not well, last year's getting my years all mixed up. But the last year that we had Michael Myers here for the Halloween 2 event, I remember actually liking what they did with the whole warehouse or the Prey building that we were using. Although I got to say, yeah, Halloween in Hollywood was actually that whole pumpkin ending, with the where you're walking through the whole pumpkin and the serial thing. I thought that was actually done even better than the ending we had over here.
Yeah, I agree. I have to say there was a few things I liked more with the Hollywood maze, this isn't going against anything from Hollywood, but I mean, there are things that Orlando does quite often that is better than what we get, and that's not always the fault of the creators either. It's a lot of the times we just don't have the space to have a lot of these big elaborate set pieces. Um, but with Halloween, because no one's seen the new film yet, so we don't really know what to expect and what big set pieces they can do with this and what kind of environments. We know, of course, it takes place in Haddonfield, but we don't know where different locations or anything like that. So it's kind of interesting to see what kind of set pieces we'll see in this new one and what kind of scares they set up for. But I agree. I think Orlando's probably going to get it. I get this feeling that we'll probably get like a Titans of Terror maze, so we'll probably have kind of like what Blumhouse did last year with kind of set pieces from like Happy Death Day, and
Oh
just,
right.
yeah, and just kind of like promote it, but it'll only be a piece of the maze and not a complete set piece.
I could see the something like that. I really think that if we do something here in Orlando, that they would probably do something, yeah, standalone, but something that I don't know if they would take up in a whole lot of space and maybe something like a soundstage for something, that because before I don't think, to be fair, the last two houses we've had weren't even in a soundstage. When you compare to something like the Nightmare on Elm Street in '07. But I could definitely, to be fair, that facade that they did for the first maze in 2014, that was just phenomenal looking, and I wouldn't mind if they just recreated something like that, or some kind of equally as impressive facade and kind of put that in a sprung tent or something like that. I think it would fit in pretty well over there.
Yeah, I agree. But we'll have to wait and see with Halloween. I know there's quite a big controversy with people wanting it, and you've got half people wanting it, and a lot of people saying we don't want another Halloween maze.
Which which I guess I can understand, from a certain point. But to me, Halloween and Michael Myers is not the same thing as like The Walking Dead. Like
No,
the Walking Dead, like it's kind of once without having like actors in there to kind of fill these scenes in for people, it kind of gets stale real quick. With Michael Myers, if you've got him there, in the scenes with the house, and you mentioned that these we don't really know a whole lot about these scenes. I think that would make it even more exciting that people would want to see it, because it's kind of like sometimes, for example, like when they did Dracula Untold,
yeah,
and like the maze was out before the movie was out, and even though in that instance, a lot of it was changed because they changed the movie, it would just be another case of us getting a sneak preview of the new film, before it's released. That I could see them putting a big release date at the end of the maze. You walk through the end, and just Halloween, October, go see it. So I really think that we would want it at the event with something like that.
yeah. I think we'll probably get something of a kind of teaser maze of some kind. But the one maze that I think Orlando will probably get, and there's a lot of speculation online regarding it, and I have to say, with the success of its Scare Zone last year, which looked amazing, is Trick or Treat.
Oh yeah.
Oh dear God, Emperor just put Dracula Untold the handrail. We don't need a sequel.
we just need a whole handrail maze, a whole like cinematic universe, like handrail universe in Halloween Horror Nights.
Neil, who hopefully will be joining us, that's his nemesis, was the handrail.
Well, great. That's how you end the maze. You just have Neil attacking. You know, it's like, no, not today, handrail. You know, like, there you go. That's how you end the whole maze.
I think Trick or Treat probably has a good chance of at least showing up some way or some form at the event. From what I understood, the Scare Zone was one of, if only the most popular Scare Zone of last year. And I know we've wanted a Trick or Treat maze since the very beginning, and I feel that due to the success of the Scare Zone in Orlando, that this might promote Universal to say, hey, you know what? This might bring in quite a bit of a crowd, and they'll do finally a house for it. Though I get the feeling that, again, just like how Halloween might be, I feel this might be an Orlando specific thing. I hope not, because I would love that at the Hollywood event, but I get the feeling that that might be an Orlando specific maze, which could be, which I'm happy for, because Orlando sometimes gets a bit shafted on some of the specific mazes that sometimes Hollywood gets. But I would love both events. I'd love that to be a shared IP for both events. What do you think, Brian?
Oh, definitely. I think if it could be a shared IP, I'm sure Hollywood, like you said, I'm sure they'd love to have, you know, Trick or Treat over there after all these years and get something in there, and it would make sense in a house. And I really just think, you know, with the success that we had last year with the Scare Zone, I know a lot of people love the Scare Zone, and you know, I loved it too. You know, my only problem is it wasn't the maze itself or the zone itself, but it was the area that it's in. Always just gets really crowded in that area, so you couldn't really like people watch per se compared to something like New York, where it's a bigger area and you could like actually stand around and observe everything. That's why I wish, you know, that's why I'd love it to be in a maze, so they could, you know, maybe take some of those little tiny set pieces that they made and then use them in a bigger house, and then you can kind of get a greater scope without having to, you know, dodge people left and right and catch a glimpse of Sam out of the corner of your eyes. Like, was that Sam? Hold on, you know. But you can't because there's just so many people around. So I'd love for them to just go to the next level, kind of like they did with like Saws and Steam, where it started out as a zone and then transitioned into a house. I'd love to see something like that.
I think that's one of the beauty of Orlando, and this is one of the things, as someone who's gone to Hollywood for about 12 years in a row now, and I every year I always like, oh, I wish Hollywood would do that, and I wish Hollywood would do something similar to Orlando. I completely agree. I think Orlando has this beauty of just converting scare zones and turning them into fantastic mazes. And I think in regards to Trick or Treat, you've already got a pre-setup right there. And the fact is, you don't have to follow the film. The whole premise of Trick or Treat is it's an anthology, kind of like Tales from the Crypt and that sort of thing. So having it as a maze, I think, sets you up creatively to using, really the only character you're bound to is Sam, and that's really it. As long as you got the feeling for Halloween itself as a holiday, which Horror Nights does so well anyway. And looking at the Scare Zone from last year, I could see that being in a live house attraction, because I think it would just be one of the most beautiful houses there. I mean, obviously a lot of stuff is like grotesque to look at, but a lot of the set pieces in that are just beautiful. And a lot of these craftsmen that put a lot of effort into these should get a lot of credit. And I think if they did that for Trick or Treat, the same way they did the Scare Zone, I feel that this would be probably one of the most popular houses. And I don't think Orlando would worry about like lacking any guests because Trick or Treat's an IP. I feel it's a big enough IP that people recognize it and are excited about it.
Oh yeah, I think so too. I think, you know, especially last year, you know, because a lot of these people, especially you know, with Orlando, a lot of people travel from all different corners to come in and see this event. And given the fact that we had the Scare Zone last year with Trick or Treat, you know, how many of them are going to grab their guide map as they're like waiting in the front entrance to get in, you know, as they shoo out all the day guests, and they're looking, they go, oh, Trick or Treat, wasn't that the thing from last year that, you know, was in the Scare Zone? A lot of people are going to remember that, and they're probably going to go, oh yeah, I really liked that. Let's let's go check out the house version. I don't really think you lose much, people going, oh, trick or treat, why is this here again? If they're complaining about that, then yeah, they really need to look, look at different things that they should be upset about, as far as something like that.
I think also you got the whole merch angle of it. I mean, I would die to buy a Sam T-shirt. So not only that, you've got an easy access to merchandise as well. So you got Sam T-shirts, Sam hats. I would love a Sam pin for my pin collection. But they have Universal has such a good working relationship with Michael Dougherty, especially after Krampus. I feel that it's only a matter of time before they actually have a maze. Whether it's not this year, they will it's inevitable. They will eventually have one. With Trick or Treat 2, because Michael Dougherty is finishing up working on Godzilla King of the Monsters, he's going to be working hopefully on Trick or Treat 2. And I feel that if they do the maze now, they've set up the second one for like, oh, I remember the first maze. This is based on the second film. It has that drawer appeal to it. I mean, hell, as a fan of the film, if I had the money, I would have flown straight out just for the scare. Because
oh, definitely.
It's just such a beautiful film to look at, and it's a beautiful scare zone. Like, even watching pictures of it and videos of it, it's just a great looking place. So I feel Trick or Treat has a very good chance of being at the event, whether this year or whenever they do Trick or Treat 2. But I feel that it is inevitable regardless of them doing an actual house based on it. Though I feel strongly that they may do it actually this year.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance of it, and I really, like you said, now that they've got this working relationship, I mean, it's not like certain other properties where they haven't even had a starting relationship to even kind of work things out for the first project. This is something that's was kind of a sure thing, and it was proven successful, the previous year. So if we don't get it this year, then I'm sure within the next 5 years, if 5 years goes by and they're still in the Trick or Treat, I think that would be just a very strange thing to happen, especially given the relationship.
With regards to Orlando as well, moving on from Trick or Treat, you definitely we can expect original houses this year. Now, last year was very interesting in the take that they took with the different routes. They weren't really themed or tied in with each other, but they were definitely interesting concepts. I know Dead Waters was a lot of people's favorite original house. Just looking at it, it was a beautiful house to look at, and the fact that it also tied in with like doing a slanted entrance. I mean, Brian, you went through it.
Oh yeah,
a bit more about that.
Well, it was actually, thankfully for me, as I kind of like, somebody spoiled the whole slanted like floor thing for me ahead of time, so I kind of knew what I was looking for. Yeah. But a friend of mine, he didn't know anything about it, and yeah, it really caught him off guard. He actually he's already like not really the biggest fan of how haunted mazes to go through, and he's like, oh, now all of a sudden the floor is changing, the positions. So he wasn't really, he's like, oh, what's going on? As people are jumping out at him as well. But yeah, as far as like something like Deadwater, Bayou, I love the house. It was beautiful, especially for somebody like me who never really even got to experience that they had that Bayou show like for one night only before they pulled it in 2014. Yeah. Like I never got to see that because I was too busy seeing the event for the first night. My mind wasn't jumping to, oh, they're going to get rid of the show, so I didn't get the chance to see it. And so actually seeing it brought to life in a whole maze, really blew me away as far as going like, well, this is what I'd be seeing on steroids, compared to something that they were doing for that show. And it was just beautiful to look at, and the scares were pretty good, and yeah, I loved something like that, as far as what they did with the property.
It will definitely be interesting to see what they do original maze wise. It's the problem with Orlando in trying to speculate original mazes is the fact that they always come out and surprise us. I mean, the only one I would say that people were speculating really majorly on was the fact that the previous year they had a scare zone, Vamp 55, was it?
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, well, why don't they do a sequel to that, but as a house? And we kind of got a vampire house with Hive, but it wasn't. I mean, it was still based in. Was it the 80s or the 60s?
I think it was the 80s. I want to say it was the 80s, like a house, kind of tucked away in the 80s with no real like residence or anything like that. I want to say that was the time period.
It was kind of tied in with a time period, but it wasn't too tied in. So, I mean, that was the only one you can really tie into speculating about an original maze. But with original mazes, Orlando continues to surprise us, and I find it very difficult to kind of get around that. To like because it's you think about it and it's just like, oh, well, I can think that they might do this, but they'll always flip it on top of your head and do a total 180. Emperor just posted, Hive was almost like an original take off Salem's Lot, and
oh, it totally was. That's the feeling I got from it with the costuming. Oh, definitely.
No, I agree, Emperor. From what I saw and some of the videos I saw as well, the vampires were designed. They look very similar to Barlow. From the original Toby Hooper. That's actually a maze I would love to see based on the original Toby Hooper film. But I guess Hive is kind of a spiritual successor to that. It's like how what is it? Oh my gosh, my brain's like not working right now. The dead. What's the? It was in Bloody Mary's.
Oh, shoot! Yeah, Reflections of Fear. No, the.
What was it? I can't think of it. You know, what was it? Interstellar Terror. That was it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And how that was kind of like a spiritual successor of Event Horizon and
yes, right.
Space. But a lot of the mazes I think draw inspiration from attractions, but from mazes. From films, but a lot of them are kind of original on the top, so it's very hard to kind of guess on what Orlando's going to do regards to those. But moving on from original mazes in terms of Orlando, what do you think about It as well? Because, I mean, the biggest speculation is that we're getting It, and I know that it was on a lot of people's radars, and I feel with the big success of the film just broke so many records.
Oh, yeah.
I feel it's almost inevitable that they'll do an It maze. But what I've said in my, what I thought was that with the second film coming out in 2019, they might pull what they did with Walking Dead when they first did it, where they did season 1 and season 2, and do what they did with Insidious, at least in Hollywood, where they did based on chapter 1 and chapter 2. I kind of feel that they might do that with It and just combine it as one maze. But I feel that also on the flip side of that coin, they also have the capacity to really capitalizing on its success early on, and then they've still got a lot of content to do a second maze based on part 2. So, what do you think, Brian?
I think that it's the It property is a tricky one for me because. Part of me, I agree with you because, it was so successful. People weren't even really expecting it to be as successful as it was. I mean, they knew it was going to be like, okay, it's a remake. It's Stephen King. We know it's going to do well, but I don't think they were expecting it to do as well as it did. And I could definitely see it, being something of quality at Horror Nights, especially, if they do hold out. My guess would be, because what I want to know more than anything is, they had that like demo house, that little walkthrough like exhibit in like California last year. They were like a little walkthrough. So my question is like, are there like already some preset like contracts, that make it say like, well, we did it here before, so like we have this many years of rights to do an It kind of attraction. So it makes me wonder, like, would Horror Nights be able to get a hold of a property like It? I think that, regardless, if they did get it, it would do gangbusters, especially with people here. I don't know, because in Hollywood, you guys, when was the last time you guys did like a clowns, like anything to do with clowns, either a maze or a
2014, it was Clowns featuring music by Slash, and that was the last time we really had anything clown related.
Okay, because yeah, in Orlando, like that, like there's a big thing. You know, we have clown scare zones every year. We've got clown like mazes. You know, in 2014 we did like a clown's factory maze, and I think that just like clowns are just still a big draw here in Orlando. That just bringing in one of the big clowns, per se, would really like drive a lot of people in. Like I said, I just wonder if Universal could get their hands on something like it as far as bringing it to the events.
Well,
So.
I think the only obstacle would be going through the estate, basically going through Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
So it does make it a little bit different to really convince Warner Brothers to give up one of their hit projects, which there is a lot of talk that Warner Brothers is going to start their own haunted event. And if that's the case, they'll probably want it as one of their standby mazes.
Right.
But I think it'll be interesting to see what they do in regards to that. So it's hard to really say where they'll go with it. Though I feel that it has a strong chance. But it's hard to really determine. It's the same problem that Conjuring has.
Right. Exactly.
Warner Brothers is a bit fickle with their properties, and it all comes down to what kind of deal both creative directors are willing to make to get it or any Warner Brothers project to Horror Nights, especially Conjuring, as big a success franchises like The Conjuring and It. So, I mean, there was a huge rumor for the longest time that we were going to get Conjuring last year, but that never really came to pass. A lot of people said it was possibly because of the lawsuit, but I think with The Conjuring and It, they're definitely big money makers, and I think Warner Brothers is now aware of that, and they'll probably try to make Universal pay through the nose to get those properties. I mean, we've already had The Shining, we've had The Exorcist. There's not many big Warner Brothers projects left to do, and I think Warner Brothers is aware of that, and they'll probably use that to their advantage. It's like, well, we've got It, which was a huge success, and I know that will draw people in. We've also got The Conjuring, and that will also bring people in. But it's one of those tough ones where it's like, well, can the creative directors, both John and Mike, get those properties to come to the event? So it's a very
yeah, exactly. It's all kind of just up in the it's all that big legal. It's all, I guess at this point it's just a big game of who wants it more. Does Universal want to spend the money to let Warner Brothers let them use it, or are they just saying, okay, well, we'll just let Warner Brothers go off and try to do their own thing?
Exactly.
Kind of like a big not shoving match, but because Universal's got the clientele under their belt, because they've been doing this for years. They've been doing the event. They know how it works. They have the crowds. Warner Brothers doesn't really have the crowds yet. They've got the properties, but they don't have the crowds. So I think at this point it's all kind of just a big game of playing the game and who wants to fold their hand first.
Exactly. I mean, it all comes down to, does even Warner Brothers have the space? I mean, we're talking about the backlot really for Warner Brothers. They had space to recreate the Nebo Street house from It as a miniature maze, but you're talking about quite a few properties that you've got to set up. You can't just have one major attraction for a haunt to really rival anything like Horror Nights. So I think with any type of Warner Brothers property, you're looking at a lot of difficulty trying to get, and a lot of money as well that has to go out. Honestly, this kind of transitions into the next thing I was going to talk about, which of course is the 1982 original Thing film. I feel this is more a Hollywood kind of area because John has gone through two of his most white whale mazes that he's wanted at the event for the longest time, and that being The Exorcist and The Shining. And he's even said quite numerous times at panels and talking to fans that the next film he'd love to adapt is, and he's even said this on Twitter, is the 1982 John Carpenter's The Thing, which I would die if that was at the event, because I think that has definitely a draw power to it. The problem he said with it was that it costs quite a bit of money. It will cost quite a bit of money too, because they have to construct the creature suits and kind of work around it. I mean, at least with the 2011 Thing film, the film was coming out kind of at the same time as the attraction at Horror Nights, though ADI, John and Tom and Alec were able to lend some of the molds for the creature suits and that, so they were able to use those pretty much at a minimal cost. So, but the problem with the 1982 thing, they've got to construct the props, they can construct the character suits. I don't even think the Thing suits from the 2011 Hollywood attraction still exist, because with the loss of, they used to be housed at the House of Horrors, but that is, and I don't know where if they even still have them. But the Thing is definitely one of those mazes I would love to see for a number of reasons, and I feel it has a very strong possibility of being here this year. John has joked quite a few times in his tweets about the snowstorm, and he's kind of hinted that the snow's inspired him a little bit, and I would love to see the 1982 Thing film come to life, because let's be honest, we don't get a lot of cold mazes, as it were. We don't get a lot of snow type mazes, and the thing is, we get very average kind of location mazes, if that makes sense, Brian.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, like, we've got houses, we've got manors and stuff like that, but we've not had any exotic locations like Antarctica. The last time we had something like that, and that was literally the 2011 Thing film, which we had for Thing Assimilation back in 2011. So we don't get a lot of really cool locations like that. I would love to see that, because it's very atmospheric, and it has one of my favorite facilities as well. So,
yeah, no, I think that the Thing, it would definitely, like you've been saying, especially with all those tweets that Murdy's been putting out, that kind of just keep talking about the cold and everything like that. I think it would definitely be something. Because like you were saying about the whole setup with facades and that kind of thing, in Orlando, we've kind of done not really the opposite, but we've done cold, snowy kind of facade entrances a lot. Between like the body collector's house, and for in 2015 we had that whole snowy facade building, and then so we've kind of done it before. So I could see them easily being able to do something like that over here, if they decided they wanted to do the Thing again, which, in all honesty, I couldn't see why they wouldn't want to do something like that, especially because it's been a while. Like you said, the last one was in 2011, and I think it's been out of people's minds long enough that they would just, especially that they're continuing this trend of doing like classic mazes. We've had Shining and Exorcist. It would just make sense, to have another one in that category of, there's the classic horror house, the film house, and it would definitely, I could see it working out pretty well, and I'd love to see it too, especially because, I guess how for the Shining house in Hollywood, how you guys just had like the hedge maze part, right? You didn't have there wasn't any like weather, like snow on the ground or anything like that. Was it just like the hedge itself?
We had the snow, which was really cool, because when you entered the maze, it was just the regular hedge maze. And then when you exited, it was actually outside, and there was snow everywhere in that. And it was really cool, and it reminded me a lot of the 2011 Thing maze that we had. And I just kept reminiscing, and I was just thinking, I'm like, we should get the 1982 Thing film, because, for one, it's got pedigree to it. It's one of those classic films. And the beauty of it, too, is the Universal doesn't have to go through the estate to get it, because it's a Universal film. So I feel that it's a very high possibility that we'll get the Thing, and I would love that. I'd buy every merchandise, every T-shirt they'll release.
Yep. Oh yeah, definitely. Just line it up. Just give me all the merchandise. I'll put it right next to my American Werewolf in London merch.
Yes, so it's one of those things that has also. This goes back to Trick or Treat as well. It's got the merch appeal to it, because you've not just got the young fans, you've got the older fans that have both grown up with the event, like my dad. My dad even said, like, he can't really do a lot of these events anymore. It's a little bit harder to go through the day, go through the night, because it's a lot of walking in that. But
sure. Oh yeah, I've kind of seen the layout over there. I can just imagine you guys getting a good walk. To that event.
I mean, so I can understand that. So don't get me wrong, he loves Horror Nights. But he even said, like, if they did the 1982 Thing film, he would definitely go just to see that. And so you've not just got the older crowd appeal, but you've got the young crowd as well. A lot of young fans like myself, you, Brian. I mean, there's so many fans that want to see this film come to life at the event because not everyone got to experience the 2011 film, and not
exactly, yeah,
for the 2007 kind of sequel to the 1982 film that Orlando did. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of people, and I was funny enough, I was watching a lot of Facebook feeds regarding the thing, and Awkward Arsenic, who's a really good Horror Nights updater, I was reading his little his post he did on the Facebook forum for Horror Nights, and there was a lot of interesting response to it in regards to the thing. There was quite a few. There was an older gentleman that was saying he didn't want to see it again. But someone brought up a very good point that not everyone got to experience it. And I feel this is one of those mazes that's very special, that you remember it because it's not just a man in a mask. It's not just another killer. It's a creature. And we don't get a lot of creature type mazes, which I feel this goes with the snow aspect. We don't get a lot of kind of monster mazes. I mean, the last one I can remember is possibly Alien versus Predator, and that was a couple of years ago now. So
yeah, yeah. I don't really, yeah, exactly. Now you mentioned it, there really hasn't been a whole lot of creature designs here. Like, yeah, exactly. Like you were saying, as far as it being like a lot of people in masks. Not only do you have something like Halloween, but now you've got like the Purge and the Strangers. It's like how many times can you have somebody jump out with like a prop gun or a knife? And it's just like, oh, there's a person in a mask again. At least with something like The Thing, it spices it up and it makes something, that people haven't seen. In fact, I saw the 2007 House and I barely even remember it. Like, so I was there, and I don't even, I'd like to see it again because I don't even remember. Granted, it was a sequel House, but still, I have vague images of it in my mind of even seeing that in person. So. I mean, so people can complain that, I guess it's, it's this again, but, to tell that to like The Walking Dead and even something like American Horror Stories, it's like, to tell that to them. Like we've seen it, at least it's not in a row. At least there's been a gap in time for, for these things to come back to the event.
Yeah. I mean, like 2011 was the last time we had The Thing, and we've not had anything like it since, and that's not to diss any other mazes that have come in and gone, but like we've never had anything like a creature maze for the past few years, and I think it's time to really bring something else to the table, right? Regarding like, unlike a lot of human killers, and the thing is, it also fits John's. I'm sure Mike has a very similar scale in regarding when they pick IPs. And one of which is, for John's, is, does the IP have a lot of appeal? Is it well known? And yes, The Thing has that. 2, is it possible to do with human characters? Yes, it is.
Yes.
You just need you just need creature suits. And 3 is, can the environments be recreated in a live attraction? And it fits all those bills. So I feel it has a very strong chance. I know a lot of people do as well. And I have to agree. I think The Thing is definitely up there, and I feel that it's going to be here this year, and I hope that's the case. So,
yeah, same here. And to be fair, you were mentioning creatures and that kind of thing, and it kind of brought my mind back into some of the things that we've seen in previous years as far as creatures go. And thinking as far as Orlando goes, I was just thinking that maybe what would happen if they took the same kind of creature design, everything else that they've done for something like American Werewolf in London, over here. And like Predator, or Alien versus Predator, we had puppets. I'd like to see maybe could they do something with the creatures from The Thing, but translate it to something like with puppets, and do some kind of new concept with it, because we've done so many things in the past with puppets that I'd like to see them do something else, with another kind of creature.
Emperor just posted, yes, please do creature houses. Just please don't do a duck down tunnel finale again.
I agree. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I agree with that.
I didn't experience it, but my parents did, and oh my god, they said they loved the maze. They just hated that part, and I think a lot of people did as well. I get why they did it, but I just I don't think it worked as well as they thought it might.
Yeah, I get the idea and the appeal. You know, as somebody who went through it several times, you know, I get why maybe they did it. You know, that was kind of one of the first, I think maybe one of the first houses that I experienced with some kind of like duck down, at least to the extent that they wanted you to, and that for as long as they did, as far as a period of like walking. And you know, but so yeah, that was kind of just really, especially when you got some people who you know didn't really have the best walking abilities to begin with because of how they've been spending their night. You know, then you expect them to like what? Now I got to bend over and do what? You know, huh? So like it just kind of slowed things down. And you know, not only that, but my problem was, you know, I'm waiting to get you know under the tunnel, and then I look over to my left, and you know, all they have is one predator sitting over there in the maze. I'm like, well, at least put some more predators in here for me to look at first. You know, at least make it Alien versus Predator. That was the great thing about Hollywood is you know you guys actually had like an actual versus. You know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't really say we had a real versus. The only versus we had was versus the walkway tunnel. Yeah.
Versus mazes are very interesting because you either get it to the point because it didn't seem like Orlando when they had Freddy versus Jason, they didn't seem to verse much. But when I attended the 2016 event where they did Freddy versus Jason, it was a full out fight between the two, which was really cool. So I mean, there's it's slight differences in both how creative directors will handle the events.
Yeah.
Um, I think yeah, with the thing, it has that appeal, and I'll finish with saying this: is it has the appeal, it has the pedigree, and it also has a, a different environment, and it's also again something different. It's not just another guy in a mask that's coming to slash you or anything like that. And I think that's why creature mazes do really well because even the 2011 maze did very well, at least at the Hollywood event. I know there was some discrepancies with the Orlando one, but the I think it's something that people will remember, and they it's nothing that really kind of slips people's minds very soon.
Hmm. Oh yeah, I agree. I think that you know between it not being around for a long period of time and the fan appeal, I just yeah like you said you could put merchandise all over the stores. I could see that being a big seller. All kinds of different merchandise. You know, I'd love to see like a thing lanyard. Just give me a thing lanyard just with
Oh
the
my
design
god,
of the
the
creature on it.
violence!
That'd be so cool.
I mean, I've got the lanyard I'm using right now for my pins is the Jack one from HN25, but I would happily get the thing as a lanyard.
Oh, me too, definitely.
The one thing I'll say as well, the merchandise, especially for Hollywood, it went up and down. 2015 was a big letdown on what the merchandise was, but in 2016 was amazing. The pin was fantastic in that. 2017 was a bit. I got the pin only because I ended up because I thought I wouldn't like the Shining Maze,
Mhm.
and then I ended up kind of enjoying it a little bit more than some of the mazes that were there. But yeah, I think the merchandise for this year should be quite interesting to see what they do with it. Because we're coming up to an anniversary for Orlando. I mean, we've got what 2 more years until 30. So
Yeah.
um, with Orlando, especially, the merchandise tends to be really extravagant and really cool. Even with weak years, it tends to be pretty decent. So I'm hoping that this year we'll get a good variations on different merchandise this year because it used to be back when Walking Dead was like a big flipping maze every year. Every year was like Walking Dead merchandise, and there wasn't really a difference in or variation in a lot of those merchandise. And I'm hoping this year that we get quite a bit of differences and variations on different ones. And I hope every maze gets a specific shirt because not a lot of the times they'll just overtake unless it's like huge, they won't capitalize on it. So I'm hoping we get something like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I think that I think that 25 was definitely a big year. Now I'm going to say this right up front. You know, like you said, with the big anniversary coming up, I'm hoping for a return of the big shooter glass, shot glass. This is going to be my big thing with as far as merchandise goes with here in Orlando. Was they kind of took something away from us, like back in I think it was 2014.
Mm.
was when they took it away. But they were doing this. They had these tall shooter shot glasses with like really pretty design, like all around uh, the whole exterior of the glass, and on the back they had different like little measurement notches and stuff. And we got a different one every year. That was kind of like my big. Everybody else collected the shirts, and I love the shirts too, and everything else is great. But like that was kind of my big thing of buying, and like they just kind of, I don't know if maybe they changed like merchandising like supervisors, and like they're like, well, we're not selling a whole lot of these, so we'll just stop making them.
Yeah.
But like that was my favorite thing, and it's actually it's really depressing every year to go as far as merchandise goes, because every year I walk up to the little merchandising booth with my like picture on my phone of all of my glasses lined up in a row. I say, well, do you have any more this year? And every year they, no, sorry, we don't. We've got the little baby one, but if you want to throw out your whole like lining up of how they all are organized, it just throws everything off. So I'm hoping they bring back, maybe at some point they bring back some of those. But yeah, definitely. Like I think the last 2 years have really kind of been not lacking in Orlando per se as far as merchandise, but it's not as it's I think 25 was just such a big milestone that they kind of like went the full mile with that and made everything, and I loved everything with that event. And then the last 2 years, we had the Chance merchandise, which was okay, but like, there really wasn't a whole lot of variety with that. It was like usually you get Chance, then you had the house shirt, and various things. And then even last year, we didn't even really have an icon per se, other than like the Bone Daddy skulls. It's like if you want to count.
But I wasn't really impressed with it because what me and Neil do, UKHHN, because he goes to the Orlando event, I get him the Hollywood stuff, and he gets me the Orlando stuff, and we just because we're both in the UK, you see. So
right.
So like we do this international exchange of HHN items, but. Last year, I mean, I think the only thing I wanted was possibly the annual pass holder pin, and I think that was it. I don't think I asked for anything else. I mean, for the Chance one, he got me the T-shirt and I think the pin as well. So I think there's been a kind of a flux, especially in Orlando. I know for sure Hollywood's had a bit of a flux in terms of merchandise kind of quality. But with Orlando, it's kind of gone like a couple of years and it's been fantastic. And then like last year was kind of like kind of. I mean, that's my opinion, but I feel that with 28, if they do another icon, weirdly enough, I think if the years with an icon, the merchandise tends to be a little bit better. It may not be as fantastic, but it's better than years that haven't had an icon. That makes
sense.
Because I think with a character you can capitalize. I cannot speak today. They can't capitalize on that. And with Hollywood, the problem is John doesn't like doing. I mean, there's different rumors of why John doesn't like to do icons, but I think he just doesn't like icons in general. But weirdly enough, and even John was surprised how popular Hollywood Harry was in 2016.
Oh, right.
And a lot of people have been asking for him to come back. And I've kind of classed Hollywood Harry as a pseudo or proto icon for Hollywood. I still consider him an icon because he was plastered all over the merchandise and stuff. And he had a very distinct background. And I think that does help for an event, especially with merchandising and stuff like that. I was just sad that they didn't have a Terror Tramp shirt with him on it. I mean, last year they had Chucky. I'm wearing it actually now. The Titans of Terror with Chucky, Freddy, Jason, and Leatherface, and the Terror Tramp. But weirdly enough, they avoided Hollywood Harry, even though it was splattered all over the merchandise, not merchandise, the promotion art.
Right.
So I think it's definitely a very interesting correlation with having a lacking of an icon and going with an icon where the merchandise has kind of gone up and down in quality. The problem with Hollywood is, like I said, we don't have icons to theme the event. So we end up kind of just having generic designs for a lot of our merchandise. That's why I'm always jealous when Neil goes over and he takes pictures of some of the merchandise because like it just looks amazing. But there you go. It's just kind of be interesting to see what they do for this year, whether 28 actually has an icon or not, or they just follow what they did last year. So
Yeah, that does make me wonder. Especially since you mentioned that the 30th is coming up soon. I just wonder if with the response that we had, on the supposed icon last year in Orlando, if they're going to even say, okay, well, this year we're not even really going to bother. Like, you guys didn't really take too kindly to the one that we made last year. If you can, yeah, I guess, it was technically an icon, but in past years that I've went, when there's an icon, they let they're, between the advertisement and the merchandising and the posters out front and everything, like they let you know that, hey, like this is the person bringing in Horror Nights this year. And last year it just didn't, like it's almost like it's almost like they booked this person as an icon, but he like missed his bus and he didn't show up, and they had to change the promotion at the last minute, like, oh yeah, he didn't make it, but here we already have him on the posters and everything. It was just really weird. It was just like somebody just majorly dropped the ball, like somewhere in from the end product, and it just felt weird. So it makes me wonder if they're just like, okay, well, we kind of flubbed that up a little. Now we're just going to wait until the big 30th, because I really think for the 30th, especially with what they set up in 2005 with the whole Terror Queen and everything like that. I really, I'm hoping that's what they do. I'm hoping somebody doesn't go, wasn't there some kind of Terra something we were supposed to do 15 years down the road? I'm hoping somebody actually remembers. But like I would love to see something like that. Whether they of course, now this is just big wishful thinking, just big speculation, wishful thinking. But for the 30th, I'd love to see them just reopen the Islands of Adventure gates and just say, okay, the Queen is back. Here in Islands of Adventure, or do like a dual park or something like that. But yeah, I just see them really, if they were going to do an icon, like just save up all the thought and creativity for that. Because in all honesty, with the IP / original house concept, it kind of makes me wonder, like, what more can they really, I don't want to say what they can do, because Universal is very creative and I'm sure they'll come up with something very clever. But in 2016 we had Chance, who was kind of already like a pre-established thing, and then the year before that we had Jack, which was a pre-established kind of thing. So it just makes me wonder if they would just be better off doing the same thing again, but just waiting for like the 30th, and then that way people who are already complaining, we already have people complaining that Halloween's coming back. What if there's people complaining that, oh, now we're getting too many icons. I know in Hollywood that's not a big deal. I know you guys aren't sitting around going, we're getting too many icons.
Yeah, we're pretty barren over here. Emperor just posted Terra Crunetus at Islands of Adventure. Yes, please. I would cry tears of joy. I agree. I may not have been to Orlando when that was around, but I definitely watched a lot of videos, and I did a lot of research because I had to do a bit into the body collectors when I was doing my Shady Brook Files videos.
Right.
And it's definitely an interesting concept, and it also ties in with the Storyteller, which is really cool, and I'd like to see the Storyteller come back. Storyteller is kind of like one of those icons where it's like the Usher, where they need more love, I think.
Yep.
You've got the big ones like the Director, who I'd love to see come back at some point. I mean, hell, even we had the Director back in 2006 in Hollywood. But I feel that the having the Storyteller and the Terror Queen back for 30 would be awesome. But there's a lot of people, especially saying like, oh, they don't want to see that. They kind of want to move on. And I feel that I get this horrible feeling that Orlando's kind of got that mindset where they're kind of moving on from the past, and they kind of just like, okay, well, we'll in essence do a reboot of the event, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Hell, if you look at HHN 25, Jack's kind of a rebooted version of himself, even though it's still tied into the original kind of plot of Jack. It's definitely I get this horrible feeling that Orlando's just going to kind of start rebooting its own event, and it'll be interesting to see. It's one of those events, HHN 30. I definitely want to fly out to Orlando to attend, just because I missed out on 25, and it was the biggest regret of my life.
Oh, I believe it.
Instead, I went to HHN 2015 at Hollywood, which was really depressing.
Oh no.
Yeah, 25 was amazing. 2015 and Hollywood was not the greatest year. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do for 30. One of the moving on a little bit from that because we're coming up to almost an hour here. Is was it Stranger Things is definitely on a lot of people's minds, and I feel this is another one where I think we possibly might get it. Um, we've had 2 seasons now, and both have been highly successful. There's a lot of talk online, a lot of buzz for it. I feel this is one of those mazes that's most likely going to happen. Um, what do you think, Bob?
You know, I can definitely see it happening, especially with something like Netflix. Kind of going back to the whole thing with Warner Brothers and it. Netflix really hasn't really dipped their toes in anything Halloween event related. They've never really nobody's. I don't know if people have approached them in the past, saying, hey, if you wanted to do something maybe somewhere somewhere other than Universal, but I could definitely see it coming. It's big enough. It would definitely draw in. It would be that niche that they would need to bring in, like all of the casuals per se to horror nights. I think that would as much as something like American Horror Story brought in a whole, and even Walking Dead. As they keep bringing in these TV shows, it keeps bringing in clientele who are just going there for that. There was we had a lot of that's why, in my opinion, Walking Dead stuck around for as long as it did, because people kept showing up for that. It's like I'm here for Walking Dead. I love the show. So I could just see them doing the same thing with that. Now, as far as Stranger Things itself, I can't really say too much about if it would work as a maze, only because I've never actually seen the series before. I know I'm going to probably get some flack for that, but I've never actually seen Stranger Things before. So it makes me wonder, well, what could they do with it as far as making it a whole, or would they want to do something kind of like Trick or Treat with maybe making it a scare zone?
I feel it's going to be a house, only because they can do the Demogorgon, which should be an interest. Again, this goes back to talking about the thing about the creature having creature type effects. The Demogorgon's one of those creatures that I can see being, because it's basically a human. It's slightly bigger than a human, but its face opens like a Venus flytrap.
Oh, okay.
It's almost like a flower, and it's got all these teeth on it. So it's definitely a very distinct design, and I think that'll be terrifying to see in a live attraction. And then you've got the miniature Demogorgon things, because it has a whole life cycle. So I think the problem with Stranger Things as well is you've got the Demogorgon, you've got a few of the miniature creatures as well, but there's not, other than that, there's not a lot of character. I mean, there's not a lot of threats, let's say that. I mean, you've got the kids and stuff like that, but there's not. I mean, I guess you could do the scientists with the flamethrowers and stuff like that. You could have them as scare actors, but you're mainly relying on the Demogorgon as a character to really be a major part in the maze. I mean, again, they could just wait until season 3 comes out, and there might be a bit more content to work with. But
right.
I feel with it has a strong chance of being an attraction at probably both events. I feel this has shared IP material. So
oh yeah, no, I think so too. I think that especially I could see NBC and Universal once they sign the papers as far as letting the event or letting the maze at one event, it's gonna be an instant okay, you're putting it over there. I wouldn't be surprised if you try to pull some strings and say you're putting it in Singapore too. You're putting it everywhere. Stranger Things. So I could definitely see them if they got it for one coast, it's more than likely to come into the other one.
Also, you got to think again. This goes into our other factor. Merchandise. There is a huge following for the show, and merchandise is just rampant. And I feel that Horror Night specific Stranger Things merchandise could be a very effective tool, and especially for financing. Quite a bit of the next year's attractions will probably be funded 90% on merchandise.
Probably. No, definitely. Oh yeah, well, because the funny thing is, I walk, they already seem to sell this Stranger Things merchandise at places like Target. And I walk into Target all the time, and it's here's our giant stand up of Stranger Things merchandise, and I'm like, Stranger Things and Target, I don't, I guess I just don't put two and two together. So I mean, if they're selling that much stuff at somewhere like Target, I could just see them doing like, especially something, yeah, definitely something at Halloween Horror Nights. Especially when they could take like a design and then just put Halloween Horror Nights at the bottom, like they do with something like the American Werewolf shirts or like the Halloween shirts.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think Stranger Things has a very high possibility of being at the event, and I agree with a lot of people saying that it's going to be here. Um, I like Stranger Things. I can't say I'm like 100% on board with it being a house, but we'll see. I mean, I've been proven wrong before in terms of my feelings for The Shining as a maze. Um, so I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, yeah.
But there is a lot of buzz regarding it, and I feel that it's yeah. I feel that Stranger Things, above all else, we've got a high possibility at being at both
Oh,
attractions
definitely.
in Hollywood. Moving on from that,
Mhm.
kind of in time with television, we have the rumor that this year is going to be American Horror Story. Well, this at least for Hollywood. American Horror Story is going to be based on season two, Asylum, which I'm really psyched for because I love, out of all the seasons of American Horror Story, Asylum is my favorite. It's just the creepiest. Asylums in general, just really creepy. I was terrified in 2006 when I first started going for horror nights. Like the Asylum maze was terrifying,
Oh,
and
right, yeah.
you've not only got that, you've got mutant monsters created by a mad scientist. You've got demons. You've got aliens. And you've got, of course, Bloody Face, which would be terrifying. Because Brian, you went last year. What was the asylum section of the maze like?
Well, it was I can't really describe too much of about it because I didn't really get the best like experience of that house just because I don't know if there was like it was like like a line or they're doing a shift change or something like that and I just missed a bunch of stuff. But from what I could see with like the asylum bits is I really liked the like the theming like they kind of was the same kind of thing as far as the because we've had two different mega houses with American Horror Story and it was just it was nice to see like a good representation of each part
Yeah,
and definitely yeah the costumings I thought were great for like the some of the characters from like that from that season. I really liked the designs. So I could and I from what I could tell with like what we did in ours, I could definitely see Hollywood like expanding that into like just a full on season maze in itself.
yeah. No, I agree. I think it's just inevitable. It's gonna show up at
Oh
Hollywood.
yeah, especially now that they have these contracts in place. It's kind of the same thing with like Halloween, where they have a good working relationship now. Now that they actually managed to work out the bugs and kind of settle things out, they have
Yeah,
a great like a great relationship together now. And I could see them doing individual seasons for each coast until it's until people start complaining like The Walking Dead and just saying it's like all right, well there's too much of it. We've had our fill. We don't need any more of it, and then they'll move on to the next thing. But I really think that if they continued on the trend that they did for the last 2 years, I could definitely see it being popular and thriving at the event, especially if we don't get something like Stranger Things, like because my question would be, do all these television companies want this many properties all at the event at one time and kind of overshadowing each other? But then at the same time, I think about it. A couple of years back, we had like the what was it? The oh shoot, what was that? Eli, not Eli Roth. The From Dusk Till Dawn. We had the From Dusk Till Dawn, maze, and then we also had Walking Dead. So I mean, to be fair, I guess it'd be okay for them to have like multiple like television properties, going on at once in the event. So I could see it working.
yeah. I think we'll probably get. Emperor just posted at least every season of American Horror Story has new characters and content as opposed to The Walking Dead. That's basically nothing but zombies. Yeah, I mean, American Horror Story has a lot to work with, Emperor. I agree, and the we'll probably get Asylum. I'm pretty sure we'll probably get Asylum. And I'm pretty sure Orlando will probably, if they do have American Horror Story again, we'll probably get season six. I think it's season six.
I think so. Yeah.
Wait, you guys didn't have Roanoke yet, did you?
No, we had Roanoke last year. It
Right.
was what was it? It was this
Season 7.
Asylum Roanoke.
It'll,
I forget
so
what the
it'll
other
be
one was.
Roanoke. So you've had Roanoke. So it'll probably be season 7 for you guys then. Did you have season 1 yet?
Yes, I think that was the year, the 2016 was when we had
Oh,
season
yes.
one, because we skipped Asylum because of the whole, like, we already had an actual Asylum maze, so they didn't want to kind of mix everything, and then the whole thing with Chance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so you guys will probably have Colt then as a maze if they do American Horror Story again. Um, yeah, I think American Horror Story is one of those that's just going to play itself out, just like The Walking Dead, and then just move on. Um,
yeah,
yeah, this so overall, I mean, this year has been is going like if anything's to go by, it's definitely going to be an interesting thing. I will finish with this. In regards to John Murray's kind of hint towards the first code name for the first maze, he says that the hint is contained within the film Terror in the Isles, which, if you know the film, is basically a horror documentary on classic films. And there are quite a few films that you could take this actually two ways. Terror in the Isles, like I said, is a documentary about horror films. It could possibly mean that we'll be getting a multiple different maze, with different IPs kind of squished into one, kind of like Blumhouse.
hmm
Or there are a few interesting mazes films that show up in the film. One of which being the original 1982 Thing
oh,
and Halloween as well. And
hmm.
funny enough, the narrators for Terror in the Isles is actually Donald Pleasant. Yeah, Pleasant. Sorry, the gentleman who portrayed Sam Loomis and
ah,
Dr. Samuel Loomis in Halloween, the original film. So could this be connected? I don't know, but it's definitely an interesting little kind of like hint, I would
it
think.
is.
Um,
Very interesting.
I the inner fanboy of me wants it to be the Thing, but we'll have to wait and see.
Oh,
Right.
well, it sounds like something that it could possibly be. With the way everything's lining up, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, I think I again. I think my top mazes I think are going to be here are probably it. Not it. Sorry, the Thing. Definitely for Hollywood at least. I'd hope it's a shared IP. Stranger Things, American Horror Story is almost a given. Like, there's not much to speculate other than what season it's going to be based off of. But I think we'll probably get Asylum. And then I personally think so. With Stranger Things thing, American Horror Story. Uh, yeah, I want to say it, but I'm still not 100% on it yet. Trick or Treat, I think for Orlando is a given at some point. Whether it comes this year, it's up in the air. But yeah, those are kind of my top picks for what this year. I mean, as more hints and stuff comes out, we'll be definitely covering it on Horror Night Updaters. Um, so it's definitely it's definitely going to be interesting if it changes my thoughts on the speculation for this year. What do you think, Brian?
Well, I think that like, kind of everything that we've gone over, I really think that some of the big ones, like you said, American Horror Story, if it's not coming, I'll be quite surprised,
Yeah,
because it's at this point it's a given. Halloween, especially now knowing that it's a universal released picture, I could just see that coming, just no problem to both coasts. It would fit right in. I definitely would be excited to for Hollywood. I would be excited to see some kind of Titans of Terror like Redux, where they add in Michael Myers or something, or make or maybe switch him out with maybe Freddy or something, and maybe make like a different kind of thing. I don't know, but again, something easily could be at the event. And then yeah, Stranger Things, I definitely think that if they manage to like finagle those rights and get everything in there fast enough, it would definitely bring in a lot of the crowd that loves that kind of show, and the and that clientele. I could definitely see that. Now, one of the other things we didn't really mention it yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if it came either to Orlando or both events. I don't know what you think about it, but that sequel film to The Strangers, like considering it's another Universal property, I mean, at least something like maybe a scare zone to like maybe work it in with maybe another film or like something we did last year where we did the I don't know, I call it the photo op scare zone, but we did that whole section with all the different characters in the zone.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do something like that, but I just wonder if Universal would like not want to like leave that off the table, or even something like a Blumhouse kind of thing, like a just big mashup with like another property to put it in somewhere, just because they wouldn't want to waste that opportunity to market, especially considering the film's coming out pretty soon in a couple weeks, and then by the time it's coming out on video, it'll be about time for the event.
Yeah, I think with The Strangers, I don't see it being a house. I don't think it has the pedigree or the real appeal to being a full-fledged house. But if anything, it'll probably be if it does come, it's going to be a scare zone. That's for sure. I don't see it being a full-fledged maze. But I mean, I've been wrong before, and honestly, we used to have it for the House of Horrors, but it was mainly them just being in the House of Horrors rather than the house being a complete dedication to them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I could see them. I just wanted to, I thought that maybe more than anything they'd want to like sneak them in there somewhere, especially in like Orlando, and then kind of rounding the whole thing off would be, I think it does have a chance, but The Thing I really believe is something that we could definitely see here at the event.
I will repeat what a great man once said in a TV show: "I want to believe."
Same here.
But one day, if not this year, I want The Thing at some point to come in. But that's just my personal wants, and whether or not they do it, we can only hope.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We can only hope from here. But I really think it has a good shot. I really do, compared to some of the other things out there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely at the top of my list of what's possibly going to come this year. I think Stranger Things has a very good chance as well. But we'll have to wait and see. So thank you guys for joining this speculation stream. We finally got it.
Thank you.
I'm very sorry that for the delay. We started a bit late. We decided to go with the YouTube stream instead until we can figure out how the Facebook one works with PC, unless they update it. But thank you all for joining us tonight, and thank you, Brian, for joining me in the stream.
Oh no, thanks for having me. It's great to finally be on the show with everybody and kind of hash out my ideals, and we're gonna keep going throughout the course of the event now, and hopefully as things move on, we'll be bringing you guys more updates and getting things here as soon as we get all these technical difficulties out of the way. We'll bringing you more shows here and really get that speculation vibe going, because it's now the time is now, it's upon us.
We are in March, and the event is coming nigh. So I mean, we'll probably get some more updates. I'd say possibly more standard updates, probably around, I want to say April, May. We'll probably start getting the first code names for mazes and stuff like that, which again we'll all be speculating on. But these are just our initial thoughts of what's going to be possibly here for this year. Again, thank you guys for joining us tonight, and we'll see you in the next stream.
Yeah, have a good one.